To the Q&A, there are a lot of people here who would like to ask questions. All these very polite questions, something expired that is in Central Eastern Europe.
Thank you very much.
And what we do best is provoke.
It's not easy to solve the problems related will be achieved.
All these very polite questions, something expired that
School of Advanced International Studies. It's my first official visit to the United States, and I really enjoy this visit. We enjoy a great cooperation that exists between the United States and Georgia, and we enjoy a very friendly attitude from the United States to our country. The United States has played a very important role in the strengthening of the Georgian statehood after the restoration of our independence in the early 90s, and this is the role the United States is further playing for Georgia, and we are extremely grateful and thankful to the United States for this tremendous support. We enjoy a very intensive phase of our cooperation. 2017 was a remarkable year for our relations between the United States and Georgia. The Mike Pence visit, the Vice President's visit, was a kind of culmination of this new phase of our relations. Mr. Pence delivered a very strong messages in support of Georgia, and these messages were highly appreciated by the Georgian people. Again, we very much rely on the United States support, and this support is just crucially important for the achievement of the goals which are in front of the Georgian state. We are trying our best to strengthen our statehood, to strengthen the Georgian democracy, to strengthen the Georgian economy, to achieve our foreign policy goals, and to follow the priorities we have in terms of our foreign policy. And in all these dimensions, of course, the United States support plays an extremely important role for us. We have to exist in a very complex regional situation. We have, of course, many challenges in the region around our country, and these challenges, I believe, are properly addressed by the Georgian government. Our policy is quite effective, our foreign policy is quite effective, and our domestic reforms are implemented quite effectively. The challenges that we have around the country, around Georgia, of course, are relevant not only for our country, but they are relevant also for our friends, including the United States. That's why we should stand together, I believe, to address those challenges. We have a very clear foreign policy vision. We have a very clear priorities for our foreign policy, and the main priority is for us to become the full-fledged member of the Euro-Atlantic family and of the European family. Membership in NATO, membership in the European Union are the top priorities for Georgia, and we are very consistent in the relevant efforts. We are implementing the relevant reforms in order to ensure the permanent approximation of Georgia with the Euro-Atlantic Union and with the European Union, and our steps and our reforms are quite successful. We enjoy a very strong cooperation with NATO. We have a very good cooperation in the field of defense, including the field of defense, and this consistency, we believe, will finally bring its results. We know that it will not be easy to achieve the full-fledged membership in NATO within the next few months or even within the next few years. But finally, with the support of our strategic partners, this goal will be, we believe, achieved. And again, also in this case, the United States support is of the particular importance and of crucial importance for us. Again, another foreign policy priority is the membership in the European Union. In this case, we have quite tangible achievements. We have signed the association agreement with the European Union. We have been granted the visa-free regime, and these are the very tangible outcomes for the citizens of Georgia. And now the citizens of Georgia feel very well what are the benefits of the Western integration. And with this success, of course, the support to the Western integration idea is permanently increasing. The people's support to the Western integration in Georgia is very high. If we look at the results of the last parliamentary elections, last local elections, more than 90% of Georgians voted for those political parties which strongly support both the NATO integration and European integration, which demonstrates a clear commitment of the Georgian people. It's the Georgian people's firm will to become the full-fledged member of the European family and of NATO. And we are just acting, the government is just acting according to this will of the Georgian people. This will is based on the values. That's a value-based decision of the Georgian people. We believe that Georgia is historically part of the Western civilization, and we want to formalize this historic affiliation with the Western community. And that is this value-based will makes of course our policy much stronger, and that's why the policy is so consistent in Georgia. Of course, we have the special challenges related with the occupation of the Georgian regions. We have the special problems and challenges with the Russian Federation. And we are, of course, addressing these challenges in cooperation with our Western partners. It's not easy to solve the problems related with the occupation, related to the Russian aggression, but finally we believe that with our pragmatic policy, also in this case, our goals will be achieved. We are pursuing this so-called pragmatic policy towards Russia, which is widely supported and accepted by our Western partners. With this pragmatic policy, we managed to achieve much higher grade of stability, national stability in Georgia. So that is the main success of this policy and of the present government of Georgia. And we managed to essentially increase the level of the stability, especially after the 2008 Russian-Georgian war, which is again a very important achievement for us. And now we enjoy not only the higher grade of the national stability, but we also contribute to the broader regional stability, which is important for Georgia, and that is also important for our strategic partners, for our friends. But despite the pragmatic policy towards Russia, we observe the increased aggression in the occupied regions and the Russian aggression. We have a variety of problems in the occupied regions. The trend is quite negative, I would say. We observe the increased military presence of the Russian Federation in both occupied regions in Abkhazia and Sakhalin Valley region. We observe the concrete steps towards de facto annexation. The Russian Federation is signing the so-called agreements with Abkhazia, with so-called South Ossetia. The borderization is another important problem, of course, for us. And the closing of the crossing points, restriction of the mobility across the administrative border is one more important problem. We made very effective steps to somehow promote the confidence building across the administrative border between Abkhaz and Georgians and Ossetians and Georgians. And it seems that Russians got a bit scared, and they started to restrict the mobility across the border. We don't have any kind of ethnic problems with Abkhaz population, with Ossetian population. It's just the politics which is spoiling everything. It's the Russian aggression which is spoiling everything in our relations. When the Abkhaz and Ossetians are coming to Tbilisi, to other places of Georgia, they are received with a great hospitality. And of course, these people-to-people contacts and relations very positively influence the situation and with regard to both occupied regions, and that is something the Russian Federation does not like, and that was the reason why Russia started to close the crossing points and to restrict the mobility on the administrative border. human rights situation is quite grave, both in Abkhazia and Tskhinvali region. The humanitarian situation is also not good for Georgians, but not only for Georgians, it's the same for other ethnic groups living in both occupied regions. So that is the situation, that is the trend in Abkhazia and the Tskhinvali region, and it is very important for us to attract the international community's attention to these problems. It's about the fairness, it's about the human rights, it's about the rights of particular people living in Abkhazia and Tskhinvali region, and these rights should be, of course, protected, and the international community can play a crucial role in this respect. Again, as for the attitude towards the Russian aggression and towards the foreign policy of Georgia, the support in the society to the Western integration is very high. The attitude to the Russian aggression is, of course, very negative. Again, 90% was the figure of the election results, which show that the support to the Western integration is absolutely prevailing in Georgia. But we should be careful, of course, anyway, because we know that many countries around Georgia are facing problems related to the Russian propaganda. That is also a challenge, of course, for us. This current situation is again quite good, but the challenges remain, the problems remain, and we should be careful, and we should prevent our society and our country from any kind of negative developments in this regard. The good thing is that the main social stakeholders and political stakeholders in Georgia, including the main opposition party, I'm not talking, of course, about the ruling party, which runs the pro-Western policy, also the main opposition parties, the NGOs, the main media institutions, they are pro-Western, and that also contributes to the proper attitude of the Georgian society to the foreign policy goals of our country. So the situation is again quite good, but one should be careful in order to prevent us from problematic developments. We are pursuing again a pragmatic policy. We are pursuing peaceful policy. We believe that we can solve the problems also related to the occupation only by peaceful means, and this is the general approach of the Georgian government at this moment. We are applying two different formats of negotiations with the Russian Federation. That is the format of the Geneva discussions, and this is the format of two representatives of two governments, the Russian and Georgian governments. And with these two formats, we managed to have some achievements in the field of humanitarian relations, economic relations, trade and transport. But as for the political progress, it's less than limited, I would say, just zero, and again the trend is quite negative. For us, it is the main goal to strengthen the country domestically, to implement the relevant reforms, because we believe that with a strong democracy, with a strong economy, our international positions can be strengthened essentially. So that's why we attach a special importance to the domestic reforms, to the democratic and economic reforms. As for the democracy, it was one of the important topics on the parliamentary agenda to implement the constitutional reform, which has been accomplished last year. And with this reform, we moved to the fully parliamentary system form of government, and we introduced the proportional system for parliamentary elections, which was a dramatic, progressive move, which will prevent Georgia from any kind of autocracies in a long-term perspective. We had many challenges and problems with the previous wordings of the constitutions, and these constitutions made it possible for different governments to establish autocratic or semi-autocratic regimes, and now with this new constitution, this opportunity will be fully avoided. So there will be no chance to establish any kind of autocracy in Georgia with a parliamentary system of government and with the proportional elections. the over-consolidation of power under one single party will be effectively avoided. We are also implementing very important reforms in order to strengthen the independence of judiciary, and we have already quite good achievements if you look at the different ratings. For example, very recently the Heritage Foundation published its list of countries with the figures about the independence and the effectiveness of judiciary, and we are doing better than 11 countries of the European Union, which is a great success and great achievement. We were competing previously with the post-Soviet countries. Now we are competing with the EU countries, which is a great success and great achievement, I would say. And of course, the independence of judiciary is also quite important for the economic development, because trust to the judiciary plays a very important role for attracting investments and for making the doing business easier in our country. So the independence of judiciary is one of the important achievements, but we are further observing the processes inside the judicial system, and we will try our best to further strengthen the system to ensure the independence of the judicial system in a very strong manner and way. One of the important reforms in the field of democratic development is the decentralization reform, and we have a very concrete vision about decentralization. Currently, the local self-governments are quite weak in Georgia. The level of fiscal decentralization is quite low, and the goal is to double the share of the local revenues vis-a-vis the GDP in a medium-term perspective. So that is a very ambitious goal, which will provide another essential change in the system of governance. And this reform will be implemented according to the decentralization strategy, which is being developed by the parliament in cooperation with the executive branch. So in general, we have quite ambitious plans to strengthen the democracy in Georgia. One of the important directions of these reforms is, of course, the strengthening of the parliament of Georgia. Traditionally, the parliaments used to be more or less weak in our system. The power was kind of over-consolidated under the executive branch for many years, and now we are establishing a new tradition where the parliament plays a crucial role in the system of government. We have good progress also in this field, but we have even more ambitious plans for the future. The oversight capacities of the parliament should be strengthened, lawmaking capacity should be strengthened, and the parliament should be much stronger after 3 years when this legislature will be accomplished. So this is also part of our ambitious plans. Economic development is again a very important part of the reforms implemented by the Georgian government. Currently, the Georgian economy is still quite weak, which means that also the poverty rate is quite high still. Our GDP per capita is 4,000 USD, a bit more than 4,000 USD, which is 2 times less than the level of economic development of the poorest EU country. And we want, of course, to accelerate the economic growth to achieve the at least the Central European standards of economic development. So it means that we have to double the Georgian economy within the next few years in a medium-term perspective in order to finally overcome the poverty and in order to ensure the Central European level of economic development, which is our ambitious goal. We have adopted a special program for this purpose proposed by the government of Georgia, that is the so-called 4-pillar program, which is about the taxation reform, which is about the reform of governance, that is also about the education reform and the infrastructure development. So with this 4-pillar program, we believe that the economic growth in Georgia will be accelerated. We already see the first signs of the effective operation of this program. In 2017, the economic growth rate was 4.8%, which is the best rate in the region. And when I'm saying region, I don't mean the South Caucasus, I mean the broader region. So we enjoy the high economic growth rate, and that will play a very important role for the strengthening of the Georgian the statehood and the capacities of the Georgian state. We pay a special attention to the development of the transit potential of the country, and we are taking different type of measures for this purpose. We are improving the infrastructure, and we have a goal to build the highway in Georgia, crossing the whole country from the western border to the eastern one until 2021, which will be a very important step in this direction. We are going to improve the railway infrastructure in Georgia. We are building a new port on the Black Sea with the American investment, and these are the measures which will play a very important role for the improvement of the transit potential of Georgia. Georgia has a strategic location. Historically, it was connecting Europe with Asia, West with East, and we try our best to restore this historic function for Georgia. And we are cooperating with different countries in different parts of the world in order to achieve this goal. And we are quite successful in this economic cooperation. Georgia is the only country in the region which has signed the free trade agreement with European Union, Turkey, CIS on the western side, and with the China. And on the eastern side now we have negotiations also with India about the free trade agreement. And of course this economic cooperation creates a very good opportunity for ensuring the improvement of the transit potential of the country. As for the investments and doing business, we have quite good figures. The World Bank recently published the ranking of the doing business, and Georgia is number 9 among the world countries, which is of course a great success, and which once again demonstrates the efficiency and effectiveness of the reforms implemented by the Georgian government. So in general, we have quite ambitious plans for the democratic development. In the field of economic development, Georgia tries its best to be the kind of best example of development in our region. We try our best to be a best example of a loyal and strong partnership for our strategic partners. And as I have already mentioned, the United States is the main strategic partner for us. This attitude is also reflected in the formalized documents, including the parliamentary resolutions. We have adopted a special parliamentary resolution about the foreign policy priorities shortly after the parliamentary elections in 2016. It happened in December 2016, and it is explicitly stated in this resolution that the United States is the main strategic partner for Georgia. So that was a very clear statement demonstrating the Georgian government's attitude to our cooperation. And again, we highly value very strong cooperation from the United States, and we highly value the strong support the United States has been providing to Georgia for so many years already. This support is crucially important for Georgia. So finally, to summarize my speech, I would say that we believe we are on the right track of development. We are progressing permanently. We are strengthening our democracy permanently. We are strengthening the Georgian economy permanently, and we have a very clear vision for the domestic reforms and for the international policy at the same time. And we believe that with this clear vision, with this right track, finally all the foreign policy priorities of the Georgia will be achieved, and all the domestic reform priorities will be properly implemented. And again, in all these dimensions, the cooperation with the United States is of absolutely crucial, important. We enjoy again a very strong cooperation for many years with the United States. We enjoy a very important new phase in our cooperation. And again, I would like to say that 2017 was a remarkable year in this regard, and we want to keep this very strong kind of cooperation. between the United States and Georgia, and we are looking optimistically to the future. Thank you so much.